What's going on, everybody? Shonen Express here, coming to you with another weekly Shonen Jump newsletter. I've titled this one just 1000, and I think y'all know why. Chapter 1000 of One Piece came out this week, so that's a huge deal. I do want to say, before we kind of get into stuff, I apologize for missing the last official release. There's a set of chapters I didn't do a newsletter for, and, with the Christmas season and everything, being a delivery driver as I am, it gets a little busy, so I wasn't able to put out a video 2 weeks ago. But I'm getting this one out. I'm hopping back on the horse, and so that should be good. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to all of you out there who watch my videos, and let's just jump right into this very remarkable week of Weekly Shonen Jump, in my opinion. So first, as we always do, let's start with the cover. So the cover this week, as well as 2 weeks ago for this double issue, is One Piece, and obviously because One Piece has chapter 1000 coming out, this big thing, obviously it deserves the cover. One Piece is, I think, without a doubt, the best series running in Weekly Shonen Jump right now. I don't think I'm alone in making that opinion either. And this chapter was no exception. It was a great chapter. First of all, I love the stuff where Luffy tells the Minks, hey, I didn't forget what y'all did for Rizzo. And I like this kind of overall, and we see later when, in the chapter, Luffy kind of remembering the events of Wano and bringing them to mind as he gets started in this fight. That was really cool. I really liked that. And I thought it was a very interesting aspect of this fight. It kind of, reminded me of some other things, but we'll get to the end of the chapter later. For now, I just like that he, told Shishilion that he remembered what they did for Rizzo, and he wouldn't forget that as he goes to fight them. I love that Marco is holding that. If you guys listen to these videos, you probably know I really like Marco. Marco is one of my favorite characters in the series overall. It's probably top 10 favorite characters in One Piece, but I really like Marco, so I love seeing him put in work. He's holding, King and Queen, and then chucks Zoro up. I love Zoro's reaction to that. That was super cool to see. I like that. And then that 2-page spread was one of my favorite 2-page spreads that we've got at least in a long time, if not in the whole series, where we see Big Mom and Kaido standing there, and we've got Kid, Killer, Luffy, Zoro, and Law all up on them, ready to go. And so I really liked that. I thought that was really cool to see that. It's just a great picture. And then Luffy walking calmly past Kaido and Big Mom to just pick up Kinemon and talk and make sure he's okay, and having Law flip him back, flip him away, flip all the scabbards away. That gave me just, I don't know if you guys have read Dragon Ball, right? But it gave me super big Dragon Ball vibes. When Goku shows up on Earth, and Vegeta and Nappa have been kind of wrecking house with the Z Fighters, and he shows up and just kind of ignores Nappa entirely and just checks on his friends, and has that rage that is building up. That is the feeling that this chapter gave me, the feeling that this action of Luffy gave me. I love to see it. It's so cool. And then, on top of all that, Kaido. We see Kaido, is challenging Luffy, saying, Tell them what you told me, repeat what you said. And Luffy uses this new attack, Red Rock, which I think is really cool. I guess it's combining Gear 3rd and that Red Hawk move. So kind of a combination of Gear 3rd and Gear 2nd to make this Red Rock attack, which slams Kaido to the ground. I did not think that Luffy would have gotten this much stronger since his last fight with Kaido, but it looks like he has, which is super exciting. Slams Kaido to the ground and then says, I'm going to be king of the pirates. That was an amazing chapter. It was an amazing One Piece chapter, and definitely deserves, obviously the cover of Weekly Shonen Jump this week, but not only that, it definitely deserves, it's a very well-deserved chapter 1000 for a series that has just been a phenomenal series so far. So yeah, One Piece is great. Then there was nothing new in the magazine this week, no new stuff, but we did have something end in the magazine, and I didn't see this coming, actually. Agravity Boys has officially ended. Chapter 50 is its last chapter, and so, as I do, I want to do with all these that end, we'll go through this chapter because it's the last of it. So the stuff at the beginning with Baba being dead, that was kind of interesting. I liked the Baba had like 108 pieces of himself scattered throughout the universe, and I like the one shot of all the people that they've met along the way coming together and bringing Baba's little significant parts together, and then of course that the last 3 pieces were, Saga, Chris, and Geralt, my bad. They're of course, his best friends. They're the last 3 pieces. They are the Agravity Boys. That was nice, and there was a little nice ending panel, and of course, more nakedness because it's Agravity Boys. What are you gonna do? And so that's really all I have to say about this chapter. Overall, Agravity Boys it's not one of my favorite manga. I gotta say, a lot of the time I did not like it at all. There were a couple chapters here and there that made me laugh, but it's mostly because I'm super immature with the things that I find humorous, and so that's kind of mainly where Agravity Boys got me, because their humor is pretty immature too. But I liked Agravity Boys, during those couple chapters, but other than that, I really didn't like the series. I didn't like, I wasn't jiving with it all over, so I am glad that it has ended. I'm glad that I don't, have to read it anymore. So it is over. It has ended. And you know what? If that's something you like, great. But wasn't for me. I tell you what. So I'm glad that it is over. But moving on, we actually had 2 special chapters in the magazine. We had a sequel, I guess, to the first Food Wars, Shogeki no Sanji, I believe it's called. Shogeki no Sanji, whatever. Food Wars did the Food Wars mangaka did use the One Piece world and use Sanji in his cooking again in this chapter. I thought this special was interesting. I kind of forgot the last one too, but I did read it whenever it came out a while ago. But one of the things I really wanted to highlight here is that the art style, and obviously it's a very different art style than Oda has drawing One Piece, right? But to see like Zoro and these other characters in the art style of the Food Wars mangaka, it was interesting. I think it actually had kind of a cool effect. I liked seeing different artists draw other mangaka's characters. I think that's interesting. And this chapter was no exception. I like how cool they described the food. This dragon salmon I thought was really cool. I like the cool nature of which they describe it. That's interesting to me for sure. And I will say, so I got a little concerned, right? And this is because the thing about, so Zoro gave his sword to Sanji, or like he didn't give it to him, he like left it there for Sanji to use to cut the fish. It's troubling to me because he lets Sanji use the Wado Ichimonji, and I just super doubt that Zoro would ever let anyone, much less Sanji, use the Wado Ichimonji, especially for cutting fish. And they argue about that at the end, but I really don't think it seemed uncharacteristic the way that Zoro and Sanji to a certain extent acted in this chapter. So I didn't super like that, but of course, in true Food Wars style, we have this over-the-top animation, over-the-top depiction of what happens when people eat these food. I think Nami and the girl and the guy turned into like mermaids in the back there, and so like this huge over-the-top. The food's so delicious it like totally transcends anything that's normal. So that was interesting. I do like seeing other authors interpret One Piece. That's such a long story. Obviously, I like seeing that, but the Zoro Sanji thing kind of got me, so I was kind of in the middle about this special. But the other special was another special from the author and illustrator of the Promised Neverland, and they titled it "We Were Born," and it actually says it's a pilot, and I don't know if that means it's a pilot for like the Promised Neverland, if like this, or at least this concept was originally submitted to Jump as like an initial The Promised Neverland story, and that would be really cool if that's what we got. But either way, this was an interesting story. I liked kind of the gangster stuff. he's a gangster, and like the cruelness that we see of humanity, both in them and then in the whole, the girl is only adopted because she has this organ that works, and he just wants the organ. And we see all this stuff go down. And it was a cool one shot. It was nice to see. I love the Promised Neverland story. I think it's super interesting, and so I like seeing more content from the Promised Neverland. And this obviously, it might have been in that world. It might not have been in that world. That's not quite clear to me, but it was an interesting chapter, and obviously when she gets saved at the end, I thought was nice. So it was an interesting chapter, and I would be interested to know if this was the pilot for the Promised Neverland. If you do know, leave that down in the comment section, please. I'd love to know that, if this is a pilot. But while we're on the Promised Neverland, I have exciting news for those of you who watched the Pillow Fort podcast that I did with my wife and a couple of my friends. We are restarting the Pillow Fort podcast, so not this week, but next week there should hopefully be a Pillow Fort podcast out towards the end of the week. And we are starting the Promised Neverland, so that's what we're going on. If you remember some of the characters, both me and Shania have read the Promised Neverland. Kate has not read the Promised Neverland, and so the three of us will be going through the Promised Neverland, and so we're very excited. I'm very excited to get that started. So just be on the lookout for the Pillow Fort podcast coming back, discussing the Promised Neverland, and we'll go through that first arc here in a couple weeks. But that aside, let's get back to Weekly Shonen Jump. I have a couple highlights for us this week. I have 3 highlights, and the first one is Hard-Boiled Cop and Dolphin. This chapter this week was really good. There were a lot of chapters that were really good, and I've chosen 3 to highlight just kind of because I want to highlight them. I think they're interesting for their stories or for the way that they interact with the magazine. But Hard-Boiled Cop and Dolphin is one of them. This chapter was pretty good. I like the stuff with this underwater cave. I thought that was cool. First of all, before I even get into that, I'm so interested to see if this relationship between Samejima and the water, the girl who was part of the training of the dolphins. I always forget her name. I think it's like Himura or something. I'm interested to see if there's a relationship there that will form, and I'm interested in that. But moving on from that, I thought. I thought seeing Orpheus's attack, the sonic attack, as he is a dolphin, that was cool to see. I liked seeing not just, him, obviously, but the merman that attacked Samejima. There was a panel that was just super cool. When he first pops out of the wall and attacks him. It was so interesting. I really liked it. And the leader of the MIU then being able to use the oxygen and kicking that fish, the mermen, away. First of all, finding out that they're mermen. I don't think we've ever heard that before this chapter. So that was super cool. But kicking that merman away, sending them out, that was cool. So that was really cool to see. And then, is she a mermaid? I guess it would be mermaid, right? At the end of that chapter, it made me think that she too was a mermaid. So I'm interested to see what's going on there and what you guys even think about that, the ending of that chapter, because I think that she's a mermaid and that because they all seem to be somehow involved in this. But it was a cool mission. It was a cool plan, cool chapter. Just wanted to highlight it. The second manga I want to highlight this week is Our Blood Oath. Now, this manga doesn't get a lot of highlights from me. It's not one that's one of my favorites, but I really like this chapter, and specifically, I like the specific character that was introduced in this chapter, and that is Rengetsu. I believe that they did say his last name, but I don't want to give you the wrong. I think it was Kozuki, but no, that's Odin's last name. There's no way they did that. Either way, Rengetsu was introduced, and he is, I guess, the brother of the former king. So he is Ko's uncle. I guess Ko and Shin, right? Because Shin's adopted, but he's still part of the family. Ko and Shin's uncle, right? And he is scary. I mean, the people that are taking out the vampires, they don't even touch him. He is scary throughout this chapter. The way that he deals with Kaine and throughout this chapter, and specifically how upset he is that she would like torture and try to turn this vampire girl into a vampiric beast, and like he has, you know, the house like swallow kind of up. That is intense. And so I'm looking forward to him. I think that he's actually going to be a villain, but I get very strong King Bradley vibes. For those of you who have read FMA, I won't spoil anything beyond that, but I get very strong King Bradley vibes from this character. So I want to see which way he goes. Does he go like Bradley or not? But I really thought that he deserved a highlight this week, and this could be a turning point for our Blood Oath. This could be the manga getting better and taking shape, and if it is, I do hope that is, because I'm a big vampire fan, so I do hope that this manga takes shape and goes forward. But yeah, that's what I had to highlight. And the third I had to highlight, it's probably no surprise for those of you who listen to this, but it's Undead Unluck. I'm starting to really love this manga. It's becoming one of my favorites that we have, and this week we got a lot of Victor stuff, and that's why I wanted to highlight it. Now, it's actually, unfortunately for this manga, I did something this week that I didn't like, and that's why we highlighted it. First of all, I did like the fact that Victor was still able to bust out of that little sphere that they trapped him in. I thought that was super interesting, and I'm like, oh, of course he can do that, you know. Victor is just this unstoppable force at this point. But I do like what he says about the unluck and using the unluck. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back to say the part of this chapter that I didn't like is that they kind of just already redeemed Victor. I like that he's committed to Juiz. I like that their relationship reflects Fuko and Andy's relationship. That was interesting, but he's just his like. Him being overly concerned and not at all hardened and like jaded. Like, I knew he was going to be in a relationship with Juiz. I knew that like that was going to be a thing, but he's so like hardened that I don't know. I thought it would take longer to get here. And that might just mean that the manga's moving faster than I thought it would, but I don't know that I liked Victor just coming out and being open with Fuko. And I guess Andy too, about, you know, his feelings on the matter. I don't know that I like that. But I did like, as I was saying before, the ability to use the unluck ability in specific ways to target opponents. And that's something that we hadn't seen before that I really did like coming out of this chapter. And so and how she's going to get out of the book is by doing that. So that kiss at the end, first of all, Undead Unluck is turning into like an actual love story. And that's insane to me. But that kiss that they have at the end, she channels her unluck to be what would be the most unlucky thing to happen to Andy right now. And that would be to lose Fuko, or to have Fuko go back. And so she goes back. And that's really interesting. I really like that. It makes her powers matter more, I think. And so I'm very interested to see where they go with that. And that's really why, ultimately, that is why I wanted to highlight this chapter. Because this change in the definition of Fuko's power is going to mean a change for how she participates in the manga going forward. And since she's the main character, that's kind of important. So I did like this chapter, but it just did some things that I wasn't a fan of. But the power system being defined, I'm always a fan of that. But yeah, so that's all my highlights. There are many other chapters this week that I could have highlighted. I just chose not to. I do, you know, as an honorable mention, maybe I love what me and Roboco did with, you know, kind of as an honor to Ichiro Oda this week. I thought that was funny. But obviously there's tons of stuff in the magazine that is doing great right now, and definitely check out pretty much everything running the magazine, because it's all pretty good right now. So I definitely would encourage you to do that. But hey, that's all I got for you guys this week. Thanks so much for listening. If you had anything to say, please leave it down in the comment section. I'd love to talk with you and communicate, interact with you about this week, about Shonen Jump in general, or about any of the series that are running in Weekly Shonen Jump. As I'm now that We Never Learn is over, I've caught up on absolutely all of them. So I'd love to talk to you about that. Give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. I bring you these weekly newsletters every single time that Weekly Shonen Jump comes out. Obviously, there won't be one next week, but the week after, there will be. And I come up with, some random videos. I'm working on a video right now that I hope I'll be able to get out within the next week or so. So definitely subscribe, be on the lookout for that. And until next time, this is Shonen Express signing off.